Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to do something a little different. We are moving right past all the internet mockery of the Flat Earth movement to uncover something surprisingly profound, the deep psychological roots behind it. I mean, we've all seen the coverage, right? You log online, you see the conventions, the jokes, the literally countless debunking videos. It's incredibly easy to just brush this entire movement off as total lunacy. But what happens if we actually take a step back and ask ourselves what is truly driving this? Well, when we peel back the layers, we find a fascinating story about our history, our senses, and human psychology.
To really grasp why this matters, consider a recent poll that revealed a pretty shocking statistic. Only 66% of 18 to 24-year-olds can say they have always believed the Earth is round. Let that sink in for a second. That means a massive chunk of younger people, dangerously close to half, harbor some level of doubt about literally one of the most fundamental scientific facts of our reality.
So what is actually going on here? This points to a profound mystery. We live in an age of unparalleled scientific advancement. We're totally surrounded by incredible technology, and yet so many people are questioning the very shape of the planet. How can someone with a modern thinking brain actually get behind this idea? How do potentially millions of people genuinely believe this? And maybe more importantly, how do they go about proving it to themselves? Okay, to understand this, we really need to step into their shoes for a second and look at the reality they envision. It's a completely different map. In their view, the North Pole sits right at the center, and the continents are sort of splayed out over a flat plain. And at the edges? Well, instead of a South Pole, there's a 150-foot ice wall to keep the oceans in, which believers claim is strictly guarded by NASA employees. Above this whole shebang sits a massive dome, where the sun, moon, and stars are basically just little balls of light moving around just above the Earth's surface.
And here's the kicker. They don't just take this on blind faith. They actively try to prove it using some highly hands-on, tangible methods. For instance, one incredibly popular experiment involves bringing a common hardware store spirit level right onto a commercial airplane. The logic they're following is incredibly literal. Step 1, bring the level on the plane. Step 2, place it on your tray table mid-flight. Step 3, watch the bubble. They figure that if the Earth is truly a globe, an airplane flying thousands of miles would constantly have to dip its nose forward to compensate for the Earth's curvature, right?
So what actually happens? Well, the bubble stays perfectly centered. Now, while you and I know this is easily explained by the basic laws of gravity and physics, believers view this outcome in a totally different light. Because the bubble stays centered, they interpret this immediate physical observation as direct, empirical proof that the Earth is completely flat. They are trusting exactly what that little tool on their trade table is telling them in that exact moment. No more, no less.
Part 1. The 1800s Science Backlash. Let's retrace the roots of the modern movement.
You probably heard the childhood myth in elementary school that Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean to prove the Earth was round. Actually, scratch that. It's a total legend. By 205 BC, smart Greek thinkers were already conducting experiments observing a globe-shaped Earth. And throughout medieval times, there was actually a widespread accepted consensus of a globe. So contrary to what we might think, the modern flat Earth movement didn't begin in the Dark Ages. Ironically, it didn't really kick off until the massive scientific boom of the mid-1800s.
See, during this mid-1800s era, the scientific method was absolutely taking off. As biology, physics, anatomy, and math made these huge, complex leaps forward, a strong backlash began to form. A certain group of people started feeling incredibly uncomfortable. To them, science was becoming way too advanced, highly sophisticated, far too abstract, and most importantly, it was becoming increasingly disconnected from what a normal, everyday person could touch, see, and feel.
Which brings us to Part 2, the Zetetic method. Let's look at Samuel Rowbotham and the Cambridgeshire Canal.
Let's dive right into this 1800s backlash, because it brings us to a really defining moment. It's the summer of 1838, and a man named Samuel Rowbotham, using the rather dramatic pseudonym Parallax, decides he's going to publicly challenge the entire scientific establishment. He devises this highly visual, simple experiment to prove his point. He goes up to Cambridgeshire, England, and finds a perfectly straight 6-mile stretch of canal water. He calculates that if the Earth is a globe 25,000 miles in circumference, the water should dip significantly over those 6 miles. So he places a telescope just above the water's surface and sends a boat down the canal with a 1-meter-tall post on it. He fully expects that as the boat moves away, the post is going to eventually disappear over the curvature of the Earth.
And here is the result that pretty much started it all. The boat stayed in complete sight for the entire 6 miles. It never dipped below the horizon.
When the boat stayed in clear view, Parallax was absolutely thrilled. He believed he had single-handedly defeated the towering advancements of modern science using nothing but a basic boat and a little telescope.
But, as you might guess, this brilliantly illustrates the massive flaw in his thinking. His simple physical observation completely ignored invisible, yet entirely natural and complex phenomena. Basically, he failed to account for atmospheric refraction, the reality that light behaves and bends differently based on varying air densities over long stretches of water. He relied entirely on his eyes, totally ignoring the deeper physics of the natural world.
But when presented with this scientific reality, Parallax refused to accept abstract concepts like light refraction or air density. He felt they were just way too complicated. Instead, he insisted that nature should only be understood through simple, immediate observation. As he famously wrote, "Nature speaks to us in a peculiar language, in the language of phenomenon. She answers at all times the questions which are put to her. To him, you just look truth full in the face and trust exactly what you see."
He actually formally named this approach the Zetetic method. At its core, this is a form of reductionist pseudoscience. It's a philosophy that completely rejects abstract theories in favor of relying exclusively on what you can see, touch, and feel. It's essentially a call to simplify science back to what an individual can personally observe without the aid of complex formulas or unseen theories. Fast forward to today, and we can really see how this exact mindset dominates our current world. The movement flickered out for a while, sure, but recently it has absolutely roared back. Today's believers have simply swapped out the tools. Instead of 1800s telescopes and straight canals, modern flat earthers rely on GoPros, internet videos, and airplane spirit levels. But the core? It remains identical. They utilize the exact same Zetetic reductionist logic. They use their own intuition to understand reality, actively rejecting the massive body of science we all live with today.
Which leads us to part 3, the Tower of Science and understanding the psychological root. We are finally arrived at the most profound realization of this entire explainer. When you look closely and dive into their forums and literature, this isn't strictly about the physical shape of the planet. It is a manifestation of a deep, deep mistrust. It's a proxy for a deep skepticism of powerful, large, unseen institutions that feed us information. It's really no accident that George Orwell's book 1984 is highly regarded in the flat Earth community. That book has literally nothing to do with geography. It has everything to do with being skeptical of big institutions that are watching you and potentially controlling your life to retain their own power.
Think about how modern science actually works to understand this mistrust. It functions like a massive tower of science. We read about exoplanets or deep space telescopes, and we fund them with our taxes, but let's be honest, we never truly see them. This tower is built brick by brick over generations by individual researchers. Every brick rests on previous unseen research, evaluated through complex, impersonal systems of peer review. Ultimately, the tower is just too massive for any single human being to ever step back and fully see, touch, or comprehend all at once. We simply have to trust the system.
And here's where human biology completely clashes with modern reality. From an evolutionary standpoint, human beings are biologically wired through millions of years to trust their immediate physical senses for survival. Sight, touch, sound, these are the things that kept our ancestors alive. Fast forward to today, and we live in a society run by massive, impersonal scientific institutions. To our primal brains, having to blindly trust a towering, invisible system of science can feel incredibly alienating and honestly deeply unnatural. So I'll leave you with a provocative thought that beautifully explains this entire phenomenon. Are our ancient biological instincts actively fighting against the necessary abstractions of our modern scientific world? The Flat Earth movement isn't just about refusing to look at a globe. It is a fascinating symptom of a much larger paradigm. It's the story of humans desperately trying to navigate an incredibly complex universe, relying on the only tools they truly trust, their own two eyes. It really makes you wonder, as science gets even more advanced, how much further will our primal senses be pushed to the breaking point?